What if the split-second decisions that you have to make could benefit from the same calm and clarity that trauma professionals use under pressure? Today, we're diving into the art of decision-making and extracting 3 powerful lessons from trauma specialists so you can lead your business with more confidence, compassion, and control than ever before. Let's unlock the mindset that transforms crisis response into strategic action. You ready? Hey everyone, John here. 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 Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to today's episode. We're going to dive deep into decision making. And one of the things that I've always enjoyed just being a part of was medical care. I had a vision of being a doctor when I was very young, and I continued with that all through college. I had a pre-med degree, exercise science, and was trying to get into medical school. And during that time, I was able to work at a hospital, a local hospital here in the city. It was an emergency room, and it wasn't necessarily in the best part of town, but it was probably one of the most rewarding jobs and experiences that I ever had. And I worked the day shift, and sometimes I'd bleed in over to the night shift. And it was just a different world working in an emergency room. You never knew what was going to walk in the door. When people go to the emergency room, it's normally a bad day for them. So you have to be calm and collected in how you communicate and how you address situations, no matter how life-threatening they may be. And today, when I was journaling, it got me thinking about what are some similarities that these trauma professionals, these doctors, these ER nurses, that they have to make in the instant, in the moment. Well, maybe it's an emergent situation and there's several people in the room and each person has a coordinated job. Everybody comes together to get the job done, to save people's lives, to stabilize them, either move them on to surgery or, get them to where they're able to at least function on their own. So today we're going to talk about 3 strategies and common principles that you can use as a business owner and as an entrepreneur out there, even as a leader in your organizations when it comes to decision making. One thing I want to put out there, if you are afraid to make a decision as a leader, as an entrepreneur or a business owner, you're going to fail. I truly believe that not making a decision is in fact a decision. If you delay and delay and delay, things are just going to prolong and you may miss the market. You may miss the season. You may even miss the opportunity to hire somebody who is very talented to come work for you. So when we talk about this first one is cultivating this grounded pressure. And when I was in the hospital working, there was times where things were just chaotic. I don't know how to best describe it, but you have a patient that is dying. And in that chaos, the trauma doctor, they were the leader. The nurses, they had a job, to put an IV in, to stabilize the pressure, put a port in or a line or intubate a patient, whatever that looked like. There was a lot going on and everybody had to learn to ground themselves. And this is important because, when entrepreneurs, when they react, they can react impulsively, especially when stakes are high. And it can make or break you. Now, I'm not saying there's this gut intuition where when times are tough and things are coming down the pipe and you make a decision, there's a rush to that. I loved working in the yard because, again, there was a rush. It was an adrenaline rush. But in the end, you really have to calm in the storm. You have to be that one that understands what's going on and what needs to happen in order to continue past this point in time. So a couple applications here that is similar again to the trauma environment and to a situation where an entrepreneur or a business owner or a leader needs to make a decision is the 5-second pause. And this is important. In the 5 seconds, it may not seem like a lot, but I promise you, if you count to 5 Mississippi and you focus on your breathing you focus on your heart rate before you make an impulse decision, it will help you find the calm. It will help you find that groundedness that you may need to make a better decision and not just purely off of impulse. Another great application here is visualization. And this goes to like worst case scenario. And I'm not a doomsday prepper, but I'm also a realist. So what is the worst case scenario that could happen based on your situation? Many times when we were in a trauma environment, the worst case scenario was that patient would die. They would pass away. That's the worst case scenario. So if that's the worst case scenario, how can you work backwards to make sure that that does not happen? And again, this is contracting up front. When we tell ourselves, all right, this is the end. This is what the worst case could be. Now, calm, get grounded, and make a decision and take that first step. Because sometimes that's the hardest step to take, is that first one. So those are ways that we can cultivate grounded pressure. So the second really strategy here is structured assessment tools. And I've talked about these many, many times from a performance perspective, but think about them from a decision-making perspective. So put yourself in that mindset of, hey, I got to make a decision. There's chaos going around, or I'm feeling pressured, or I have a time restraint. I'm up against a deadline. And when we were in the hospital and we were working either a code or somebody was, the heart rate had stopped, there was a checklist. There was things that they were able to do to bring back that patient. And you would follow step one through that, procedure. And if that didn't work, then you move on to step two or plan B, and you follow that procedure. So not only is it a standardized way to get through a decision, but it also reduces bias. And think about this for a minute. Everybody has bias. We walk around with bias. And if you have to make a decision to fire somebody, your star employee, or maybe let's even go further, your best friend that is working for you, or that you hired, or your partner, and you have to decide to leave, right? Checklists and standard protocols get away from that bias. So for entrepreneurs, we can really fall prey to gut decisions without data. And again, those protocols and those checklists allow us to go through a standardized process of, okay, these are the checks and balances. Now I can make a decision. So some things here that we can implement are decision matrix. Decision matrix are basically lists of options versus criteria, and they normally come out with a weight. And a lot of times you use these when you're making a big decision like a move. You list all the pluses, you list all the minuses, and then you give everything a weight. And then that way you can look objectively at the information, the data, the reasons, and make a decision. So decision matrices are a way that we can assess a decision subjectively. I want to take a quick break from the episode today to talk about a couple things. The first thing, less than 40% of our listeners are subscribed to our channel. You would be doing me a huge favor if you click on that subscribe button. It helps us grow our Go Be Great community and get this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can. The second thing, are you a small business owner that is drowning in the day-to-day operations? You're delegating tasks and you're still doing all the work. You're experiencing a high turnover. Maybe you don't have the systems and processes in place that you need to run a successful business. I invite you to go over to thejohnespinosa.com, check out our live events, and sign up for our coaching program. Fill out the form to see if you're the right fit. Now back to the episode. So another application that we can use here is a time block. In this time block, and I use this if I got to make a decision by the end of the week, I will set some time on my calendar, block out a chunk of time where I can create a decision matrix, have some criteria, and begin to start scoring things. Because again, if you are rushing through your decision matrix because you've waited to the last minute to make a decision, that's probably not going to be the best beneficial option for you. So block some time, some thinking time for you. And maybe it's not a decision matrix. Maybe it's just you sitting with yourself and weighing the options. Whatever that looks like, it's important for us to have that time to dedicate. Put everything away and dedicate yourself to thinking about pros, cons, the weights, the balances, what it's going to impact. Are there any further implications? Are there any obstacles? Things like that. But it allows us to work through that decision in a structured time block. Those two applications, again, are going to be great examples of how to structure assessment tools. And the last strategy I want to talk about today is debrief and iterate rapidly. So this is something that we as trauma teams used to use for like an after action report. And we'd sit in the room, we'd go around, okay, were things in the right place? Because you got to remember, you got half a dozen to a dozen people in the room. Somebody's standing at the foot, somebody's at the head. People are around maybe on both arms or both legs or whatever's going on there. And everybody has a role to play. So if everybody's reaching over each other, or they're in the way to start the IV, or the IV pole's mispositioned, or something's out of place, those are opportunities to talk. So these after action reports are a great way that we used to kind of debrief the situation. And for entrepreneurs, whenever we start moving too fast and we don't slow down to analyze the decision that we just made, we miss growth opportunities. Have you ever heard the saying that sometimes you have to go slow to go far? This is very important. As entrepreneurs, as business owners, we don't have that luxury all the time. We have to force ourselves, though, to slow down, because if we just continue to tread and put our head down and try to barrel through those obstacles, we're going to get to an obstacle, we're going to get to a fence, we're going to get to a mountain that is too high for us to climb. And if we haven't gone back and captured those lessons learned, then we're not going to know where we need to pivot. So some applications here. 5-minute debrief log. Be after a decision is made, what went well and what surprised you? 2 important questions. Sit with yourself again, take 5 minutes out after a decision is made, after it was implemented, and ask yourself, what did I do well and what surprised me? 2 important questions that will again begin and journal this. Keep them in a journal, because in reality, we have similar decisions to make. They may be different context or different criteria, but there are very similar type decisions that we are going to make as leaders when it comes to budget, when it comes to personnel, when it comes to processes, when it comes to delegation. All of those things drive business. And so we have to go through the decision-making process, implement that decision, and then see what happened. And this 5-minute debrief is going to help us analyze all of those things. The next thing is a learning log. This is a log of all the decisions, kind of my process that I went through, what the decision was. I identify the challenge first, the decision that I need to make, and then all the processes that I went through, and really my framework. And this is going to come a couple things. I use this decision log, one, as a way for me to capture lessons learned, as a way for me to go back and kind of work through my process, but also it captures a decision-making framework. So when I go delegate, when I'm out, when I take a vacation, when I'm sick that day, everybody knows these are the things that you have to go through in order to make a decision that day, rather than picking up the phone and calling John. Because again, as entrepreneurs and business owners, we need to step away from the system. We need to be stepping away from our teams, so that way they learn to operate on themselves. And we do that through delegating decisions. And this decision log gives us a good framework to coach and mentor our employees or our second in command to be able to do that. So again, working in the ER, probably one of the most awesome jobs that I've ever had. I always felt like I was called to serve, and that was just one profession that I was able to do it and do it well. Long days, long hours, nights, and weekends. So again, I'm blessed to have an opportunity to experience that. And I'm also encouraged in the fact that I can take that experience and apply it to how I make decisions now. So when we look at the strategies that we talked about today, starting with cultivating that grounded pressure, having structured assessment tools, and then last but not least, debrief and iterate rapidly, what application are you going to implement today? I hope this episode today allowed you to borrow the calm, the structure, and the reflection that I found working in a trauma room and help you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and as a leader make decisions for your team. I believe in you. Go be great. Talk to y'all later. Bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.